How do we approach the concept of identity in a digital and networked world? I decided to approach this question from a digital progressive stance, and with that, a bit of a social justice lens. The curation of one's digital identity can be empowering and emancipatory to oneself or others and work to dismantle inequalities in society. With that, I would like to briefly discuss what digital identity might be and then look at a model of citizenship proposed by Joel Westheimer that can be easily applied and transferred to the digital world. I'd like to start with Shakespeare and propose that he had it right about digital identity all along. He said, "All the world's a stage." It is important to remind ourselves and our students of this as we teach about digital citizenship and the curation of a digital identity. In this document, identity is discussed in relation to Ribble's element of digital communication. Next, I chose this meme because I think it is difficult to talk about digital identity without using the term digital citizenship, as our digital identity illustrates who we are as digital citizens. In my research for this project, I came across these descriptors of digital identity. Many people online are questioning whether or not the term digital is relevant in front of these descriptors, as online and offline identities are becoming increasingly fluid. In more detail, a video called "What is a Digital Identity?" describes a digital identity in the following way. Our professor Alec has a TED Talk called Identity in a Digital World. He talks about our actions online being easily copied, instantly shared, easily edited, viewable by millions. This further supports the idea of a digital identity as a permanent tattoo. In the past few classes, we have also talked about the online self being an extension of the offline self, and Jurgensen demonstrates this description of digital identity in a very literal sense. And I quote, Jurgensen, "Twitter lips and Instagram eyes, social media is part of ourselves." This relates back to the Saskatchewan Digital Citizenship document, "Our online communications and actions formulate our digital identity." I read Alec's blog, Digital Identity in a World That No Longer Forgets, during the first week of this class, and 3 ideas really stood out for me. These 3 ideas got me thinking about an article I read last fall called "What Kind of Citizen? The Politics of Educating for Democracy." In his article, Westheimer describes 3 types of citizens. I encourage you to read the entire article to learn more about what each type of citizen is like, but to give you an idea, Westheimer describes, while the personally responsible citizen donates food for the homeless, a participatory citizen might organize the food drive, and a justice-oriented citizen asks why people are hungry in the first place and acts on what they discover, focusing on addressing root causes of problems. After rereading the Westheimer article, I started to wonder, if our digital identity is an extension of our personal and social identity, then how can we see Westheimer's types of citizens lived out in our digital world? I see this as a means to examine how digital identity and media activism intersect. If you want to read some great examples of how youth are rewriting their identity online using digital activism, you should check out this article. I want to provide some examples of what Westheimer's identities or citizenship models might look like in a digital space. It is important to remember that these 3 types of citizens are not a linear progression and that people find themselves in all of these identities at different times. The first example might be changing one's Facebook profile picture to a filter to show solidarity for a certain group of people. This might be considered under the personally responsible identity, or perhaps participatory identity. This type of action may be a jumping off point for someone wanting to be involved in a digital movement, but it has also at times been referred to as slacktivism, referring to the minimal effort put in by the person, sometimes only following a trend and forgetting about it afterwards. 2 other examples that could count as participatory forms of online identities might include someone who is circulating an online petition or someone organizing a Twitter chat, though I can see how these also can be viewed as justice-oriented. Connie Walker is a CBC podcast host who posted this tweet last year. I would say this tweet and her digital identity, as one of her followers, can be considered justice-oriented. Another great example of a justice-oriented identity and excellent example of a positive digital tattoo is Hannah Elper, a Canadian activist who is only 15 years old. My final example is a social activism site called the Harry Potter Alliance, which was created by Andrew Slack. One example of their work is called A World Without Hermione, a campaign to help women and girls in education. The Harry Potter Alliance has actual in real life meetings where members meet to work on different campaigns around the world. Slack's digital identity is certainly justice oriented in this particular digital space. In this vlog, I am just exploring the tip of an iceberg and wondering how digital identity can intersect with social justice and media activism, how the curation of one's identity can serve as tools for empowerment and emancipation. I'm curious about the thoughts of my ECNI 832 classmates on what I have presented. Thank you for listening.